Today on the bench, we sit together with Keegan Kittock, co-founder of Deep Wave Sauna. With the rising tide of sauna also comes marketing talk, pedantic chatter, and graphs and charts about how air supposedly moves in the hot room. So, it's extra special and refreshing to sit with someone like Keegan. In this episode, we start at the beginning, picturing Keegan after elementary school, dragging a magnet around a building site, earning bubblegum money, working for his father's contracting company, and, like many of us, catching the sauna bug at a young, impressionable age, up north at the family cabin, long rounds, long dock time, and plunging in the lake, splashing around with neighbors, friends, and family. Love of sauna and love of construction are two powerful forces pointing toward building saunas for others. Add to that Aaron, Keegan's lifelong friend, collaborator, and business partner, and you have Deep Wave Sauna. Ask them at Sauna Days or outside one of their builds how the company got its name, and you'll get right to the heart of it. Deep Wave, a nod to the nerdiness without the pedantic edge. Keegan can talk in great technical detail about different wavelengths of heat and steam, but he's well past trying to impress. He's relatable and genuinely fun to sauna talk with. Deep heat, that wave that feels so good on the bench. That's enough. When we consider the holy trinity of good sauna, heat, steam, and ventilation, the first two we can get our arms around, but ventilation is oblique, impossible to see, harder to feel, and easy to misunderstand. But Keegan has earned the title of thermal whisperer among many fellow sauna aficionados. He's the one who taught me that air is a fluid and should be understood as such. So when we talk about good ventilation, we talk about the lazy river. Stay tuned for more in this episode, why this is what we aim for, and how many saunas can achieve it naturally and passively without the mechanical buzzkill easy street. Keegan brings it down to earth, and I'm overjoyed to have made my way out to his prairie-style sauna on his property west of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, USA. I love his sauna. Spiritual patina rating, a solid 9.0. Within this article on Sauna Times are a few photos taken from Keegan's sauna, and you can check these out, and it'll likely bring you right there with us on the bench where we recorded this episode for you. I love spending time with Keegan, and with a long list of folks over the past 30 plus years, the kinship of sauna gives us more than great heat and thermal goodness. It's an alchemy of chemistry and connection, something we all feel through this wonderful thing we call sauna. Welcome, Keegan, to Sauna Talk. This show is brought to you by the Sauna Times Build Your Own Sauna suite of support services. On saunatimes.com, you will find over 1,000 articles dating back to 2008 when we first got rolling. Articles include dozens of examples of DIY sauna builds from people just like you and me who put our sauna building pants on one leg at a time. Looking for something specific? For example, try typing hot room floor in the search bar and you'll get a filter for several articles, including one offering step-by-step and video instructions on one reliable method for sealing a hot room floor to drain. In addition to the mountain of free information on saunatimes.com, my book, Sauna Build, from start to finish, is available in ebook or print form. I also offer one-on-one consultations, which have been incredibly helpful for both homeowners and seasoned builders. Perfect for navigating tricky wedge shots, 50-foot putts, and the fine details contractors want to nail on the first swing. Just click Build Your Own at the top of the site to access my book and consultation. Over the years, thousands of people have read my book, now in its fourth edition, and many hundreds have reached out for one-on-one consultations, all with one goal, to build a kick-ass sauna the right way to fit your way. And look, if you think I'm raking in cash from all this, well, if I had $1 for every monthly subscription to keep Sauna Times rolling, well, I could finally buy one of the sauna stoves I actually endorse. These resources aren't designed to squeeze your wallet. They exist to help you make your own sauna dream happen with clarity and confidence. Once again, head to saunatimes.com and click Build Your Own for more. Now, on to the show.
So it's at 185, almost 190. So
185, 190, and would you say it's 5 o'clock?
yeah, it's about 5 o'clock.
And how many trips down to your sauna did you walked down to light it, right?
Yep.
And then how many subsequent trips?
Oh, just one more when I came back to throw wood in it the last time and
Yeah.
really get it roaring. Like I said, I started a little bit later than I would have liked, so.
But it feels great in here.
Oh yeah, 185, 190.
Yeah. And we're looking out over your lake?
Yeah, yep, Pelican Lake.
Yeah. And it's at north?
That's east.
East. Okay.
Northeast, yeah.
So for listeners, tell us where we're sitting and where we're located, where we're sitting, and what this build, when and what this build's about.
Sure. So we are in between Buffalo, Minnesota, Monticello, Minnesota, and Albertville, St. Michael. There's a pretty big marshland lake out here. It's called Pelican Lake. It's not much of a recreational lake. It's just more of a wildlife sanctuary. And the sauna that we're sitting in was the first one I built for myself from the ground up. We've remodeled the ones up north a bunch of times, but this was the first one I built for myself on our own property.
What year was that?
Oh, 2018.
2018. Is that when we first met, or did we meet
you
before
and I
that?
connected like 2017, 2018, somewhere in there, because I was looking for a stove and I found Kuma, and that led me to you. And I think we met in your garage the first time when I came down to grab a Kuma from you.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Good date stamp.
Yeah.
But your life with Kuma goes back though, the Minnesota stove maker. I mean, you have a history up near where the factory is for Kuma, and so you go way back with Kuma, don't you?
I mean, so like this build was the first time I actually found their stoves. I'd seen their stoves and not really knew what it was, not really thought much of it. It's just another stove. But when I started building and researching, I'm a bit of a research nut, so I kind of dove into it and really wanted to learn as much as I could. And then I found Kuma and I was like, this is exactly what I want, because I couldn't even tell you how many stoves in our saunas up north that would burn out over the years, and you just replace them every 2 to 4 years, 2 to 6 years at the most was probably we got out of a barrel stove or another cheap stove, and you just kind of build it with what you had at that point. But when I built this, I really wanted to have something that I knew was going to last, and that's where Kuma just jumped out at me. And man, I've never really looked back after that. You know, it's just a great stove.
And you noticed it right away, like from the moment?
I mean, I could see it from the build, how he was building them. I understand a little bit about fireplaces. That's what we grew up doing. That's all we've ever heated our houses with was fire. So really understanding the nuances of how he's building it. And then I heard Daryl and you talking one time years ago, and he started talking about the design and the different engineering aspects of it. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot going into that stove. They really thought about it more than just a firebox and some cheap steel, with no baffles or anything like that. Like they've got some pretty well thought out technology inside of these stoves that it's like they put their time into it, and that really drew me in because that's the kind of person that I am.
Yeah, that's true. You are, and I'm looking forward to diving into that. We don't want to have this sound like a Kuma commercial,
no.
But I mean, the truth is the truth, and where the passion lies is where it lies, and it's more than just longevity and quality. I mean, I walk in here and I just feel
coming out of the walls, hour and 5 minutes, hour and 10 minutes, and we're sitting at 180, 190 degrees. Yeah.
Totally, dude. And it's not just the air, it's the mass.
Yeah.
And I suppose right now on my way over, I happen to have a great conversation with a fellow thermal enthusiast, Jeff Pisick in Washington. And he says, in Wisconsin and Port Washington area, he gives you a big hello, by the way. And I said, I'm going to see Keegan. And I said, what do you want me to ask him? And he goes, and Jeff goes, ask him what he thinks about radiant heat. So what the fuck, man? Let me ask you about radiant heat. Give it to me straight.
Misunderstood. Is if you're going to give me a one-word answer, that's it. Misunderstood, People think that having a ton of radiant heat is a bad thing, and in reality, it can be. The Kuma doesn't actually have a lot of radiant heat, and there's lots of videos online you can find of people taking thermal imaging and using that and creating a video in real time and throwing steam on it, and you can see how the shields, when it's properly shielded, which is what we always recommend, the heat goes straight up. It's not actually bouncing out past those shields. You do get some radiant heat out the door because that doesn't have a shield on it, but that feels nice in the room. You know, it's just a soft radiant heat coming off of that door, but the heat coming out of the top of it just heats the wood up.
Yeah.
So fast. It's incredible how fast it heats the wood up.
When you say wood, you mean where we're
the
sitting
walls,
on
the benches,
and sitting,
everything. Yeah,
right.
everything
And you get that oven effect, or that I like
and
this
it's
term.
Even
And multi-directional
right.
too. Like you can close your eyes right now, and there's no, you're just enveloped, right? Yeah.
Right.
So there you go, Jeff. There's that's for you. And I'm a big fan.
Hi, Jeff.
We talk about with Grant Whittle, another thermal enthusiast. This idea of the jazz trio of heat transfer and the three methods. Do you want to speak to that at all? Like as these three methods of heat transfer, and is that a relatable concept for you?
Give me your three headlines for what you said.
Okay. So what I love about that is when you think about to try to explain the three methods of heat transfer to someone in layman terms, and someone who's not like a thermal engineer by interest or by trade, right? You got conduction,
Right.
and convection and radiant, right?
Right.
And convection, we talk about air, heating air and moving air, and we like to kind of maybe take an analogy that would be sort of like a piano or the horn in a jazz trio, and the drum is that drumstick hitting the drum directly, and that would be conduction, like direct heat transfer of conduction. And radiant is like the bass, like the deep heat that you feel in your bones. So a relatable term of three instruments.
Yeah, I like that. I haven't really thought about that too much. For me, it's more of how does it heat? Does it heat the walls up? Can I feel that soft glow from the walls? And I think that really is the difference maker between just a stove that doesn't really have a whole lot of mass, or one that tries to get all their mass just from rocks.
Yeah.
That steel and that fire brick, and it holds a lot of heat, and it lets it out really slow. And it creates a deeper wave than you get from electric, and that's how we came up with our name when Aaron and I were sitting in the sauna discussing what we were going to call the business.
And when was that, to date stamp that?
Oh man, 2020?
Okay.
2021?
So, and probably on this sauna bench even? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we were sitting
here.
You and your business partner, Aaron, all into sauna. And let me just also set the stage a little bit more about you and your past. How old were you when you pounded your first nail? Let's kind of start like that.
I was forced to run around in my dad's job site since I could basically walk and not hurt myself. But actually getting paid and helping, 5th grade, I was getting $5 an hour, which back then that was great. You're in 5th grade, you get 50, 60 bucks a week from going to work for a couple of days.
What did going to work look like? What was that?
At that age, you're just a gopher. Go for this, go for that. Go grab me that chalk line. Go grab me the hammer out of the truck. Go grab me the maul. Whatever it is,
But what a way to learn.
Yeah, you pick up on it. It all kind of just trickles down when you're watching it enough. It's just like anything.
And so you grew up in the trades. Your father's business.
Yep.
Did you take over the business, or is it still?
Yeah, we took over the business. Actually, Aaron and I still run it. We're mostly hands off on that side. We like to get hands on more on the saunas because it's obviously a passion. But it's still there, and we still have a crew of people doing things.
So we're in COVID then, sitting on this bench. Was it pre-COVID when Deep Wave was formed?
Gosh, I don't remember.
It's okay.
It all kind of blends together quickly.
So there you were on the sauna bench, and you're speaking with your business partner and say, we want to build saunas.
Right.
We want to. And you fostered that intention and that purpose and that meaning. And how did the name Deep Wave come about?
Well, we're big fans of wood heat, and wood heat has a much deeper wave than electric heat does. And when I first started Deep Wave with Aaron, we were basically we want to just do wood heat. You know, we've since branched out. There's a lot of great electric stoves out there, and understanding people's time commitment that it takes to fire up a wood stove on a daily basis, it can be difficult. So just understanding the human nature of that, you know, opens your eyes a little bit to it. And we're always open to different viewpoints and changing and figuring things out as long as it makes sense, you know.
But you do, go ahead, you finish your thought.
But we started loving wood heat, and I still love wood heat. And deep wave comes from the deeper wave than you get from a wood stove versus electric. And if anybody knows anything about waves, the deeper the wave, the slower it is, and the easier it transfers through material and matter. And so it really just soaks right into your bones. And that's why I think that wood stoves are a completely different game than going and sitting in an electric sauna. You know. So yeah, that's where deep wave came from.
Beautiful. Now, you and Aaron both love really the technical side of things, but to give you some credit, you know, I try to aspire to not be too. Just because you know things technically doesn't mean you can earn brownie points and credit by explaining them technically. And I think you are in a rare breed where just because you know things technically, you don't try to brag about those technical pieces of knowledge.
People don't like
you relate to them humanly.
The nomenclature and hearing all the lingo if they don't understand it. So we try to explain things in a way that anybody can understand it. And once in a while a word will slip. I might say laminar and somebody looks at me with big glassy eyes. Right. You know, and I'm just like,
but it's easy street to take to glom onto those terms.
Yeah. You're just used to it. When Aaron and I talk in the shop, that's how we talk, you know. We're talking about those types of things and the different physical properties that are happening inside of our builds.
Well, yeah, some folks will try to ramp up their game and talk technical to sound important or to board off those that may be less technical, but you go the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think that nobody likes to be talked down to, and most people aren't trying to talk down to somebody when they're using technical terms, but you know, it comes off that way, and having consideration for other people feel when you're talking about them, it's just a way to create good rapport. And I think that if you care about what the people you're talking to are going through and what their lifestyle is demanding of them, then you have a much easier ability to relate to that and really dive into what makes them tick and then helps them get what they need inside of a build, you know.
Now, a lot of people contact you and Aaron, and how are they finding you? How are they, I mean, because you're not out there, there's never an ad. Like
no, we don't really do ads because we're plenty busy without it. But that might change. You never know. I'll never say never, but we don't really do ads. We try to make videos that help people understand the ways that we do things and how we think the best practices are, and do that in a manner that, again, is easy to understand and people can relate to. And then, you know, we go and do the sauna days and Banya Fest, and we've met a lot of great people through those connections, and word of mouth just kind of travels, you know. I would say we almost get more builders calling us than we get people trying to build their own sauna.
Right on to that.
Which is cool, you know, because we want to help those people bring great sauna. You know, we're not going to build every sauna in this country. We understand that. There's plenty of opportunity out there for everybody. And
I would say, just to kind of push on that a little bit, there's plenty of opportunity for the right people.
Right.
There are opportunists in the space now that there's never been before.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of snake oil, and it's I would say the majority of it is snake oil, which is kind of sad to say in an industry that you just love. You know, I do this because of how it changed my life, and I want to give that change to other people and bring that whatever it looks like to them.
How has let's put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
Tell me how sauna has changed your life, Keegan.
Well, my family, my whole life, between you and me, and I guess everybody else listening, has always struggled with anxiety, depression issues, and most of my extended family are dealing with that in a way that requires medical use. And for me, when I started hitting some of those waves in my mid to early 20s, I was traveling up to my cabin every chance I got, because I realized that if I sit in the sauna, I'm doing great. Even if it's just a couple nights in a row, I'm doing great for another week or two. You know,
it carries
over. And so then once I realized what the reason for that was, and pinpointed it. I'm like, well, I got to build one of these at home. You know, we've been talking about it for years, my father and I, and I just kind of went at it and used a bunch of reclaimed materials and leftover cedar from other projects we've done, and yeah, built this one for ourselves.
Does this have a name here?
No.
That's great.
No, it's just it's my happy place.
It's your happy place. Yeah. I have actually heard you refer to where we're sitting as your happy place. Yep. So it's as good of a name as any. And right. So this is in lieu of medication.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, yep. It's amazing, isn't it?
And you know, if you haven't tried it and you're out there wondering if this is for you, like, it's not just anxiety, it's not just depression. I mean, I know people with debilitating diseases where they can barely walk who come and sit in a sauna and they're good for a couple of days, and boom, they got to sit in a sauna again. Yeah. They lose that, you know. So it's like, give it a try, get in there, see how it feels. Find a really great sauna. Don't let a single bad opportunity push you away from it, because you get into a good one and it'll change your life.
Love it. Well said, Keegan. That I was going to ask, you know, kind of jumping around here, but like if you could have, well, one of the questions I asked pretty much all the guests on Sauna Talk, and I'm going to jump right to it, is what do you think about sauna that is most misunderstood? That if, you know, you had a billboard or you had an opportunity to share what you think is misunderstood about this place we go and this thing we do, what would that, you know, there's probably a few, right?
Yeah.
But is there one that pops out that you would like others to know?
I mean, for us, we're technical guys, you know. We like to dive into the engineering of things. We don't use a product without doing extensive due diligence on it and looking at MSD sheets, all that jazz, figuring out how the physics of these places work, how that'll affect the products that we're using. So for us, it really boils down to, you know, what are some of the things that we see that we feel bad about, you know, and we have to fix a lot of times. And you know, the biggest thing that drives that is ventilation. I think we probably get probably most of the calls are about ventilation, but there's a lot of other calls about correct building materials and how to insulate and what not to insulate with. And there's a lot of people that just overlook that, hey, this is a healthy space. Let's not go ahead and put things that are going to make you sick, or treated lumber for your spacer boards, you know, or spray foam in the walls. That's just off-gassing on you consistently. Like,
so let me
almost hurts me a little bit. You know, it upsets me to see it, because it's like, man, you're trying to. It's a big commitment financially for somebody to get into a sauna that is custom built, and then you go and do something like that, and I'm like, man, you basically just stole from them with bad information and not really telling them the truth, and they didn't know any better because they come to you as the person that has the knowledge, and you just
and the receiver of your check.
Right, and you're more concerned about getting that check than you are about building a quality product that people really can enjoy.
So yeah, man, if we were to think about this discussion, you know, what is misunderstood, kind of like a hike in the woods, and we've kind of come to a fork on two directions, and one would be materials and the other ventilation, and I'm interested in the ventilation part.
Yeah.
How many know of your moniker as the ventilation whisperer? If you had to guess, how many?
I mean, I don't push that moniker myself, but it definitely comes up.
Good.
But gosh, I have no idea.
There is a number, right?
It definitely gets brought to me almost every time somebody calls with a ventilation question. They're like, "Is this the ventilation whisperer?" I'm just like a little embarrassed. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I mean, I think you're referring to us, you know." But
well, the title is warranted because look, I've traveled all over this land with sauna, and you know, from Britain to Finland, and you know, all of these pockets and places. And you know, I love this line about Finland, where, hey, it's a land of 5 million people, 3 million saunas, and 5 million sauna experts.
Yeah.
And I've been in some really shitty saunas in Finland. And here, you hold this. I'm going to take a quick shower.
Sure.
And I want you to kind of, I'm putting you on the spot, Keegan, is ventilation. We're on this hike together. We've come to a fork in the road. You know, we're going to leave materials aside just for a minute. And if someone listening here, what would be the ventilation whisperer's top 3 points or education pieces about ventilation that you'd like to share?
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll split it up to wood-fired and electric. When you're talking wood-fired, you need 2 sources of air coming into that stove. One is going to be in the front of the stove, And in the sake of a Kuma, one will be underneath the stove. If it's not a Kuma or a similar stove that has an open bottom, then you can put it in the back corner behind the stove. We always recommend putting stoves in the corner. And then you need an exhaust. And the first vent that comes in, we usually do a cutout under the door or a vent right in front of the stove. And that is your vent to feed the fire. That fire needs a lot of air, especially if it's burning at super hot temps the entire time, which a lot of stoves you have to do to keep the temps up.
Right.
It needs a lot of air, and you don't want that air to mix in with the air that's feeding the bathers. So you try to keep those far enough apart to where they don't mix. And then from there, your exhaust should be in the opposite corner diagonally at about the thermocline. And the thermocline is, it's a term for fluid. Air is a fluid. And it kind of just is a spot where you can, the air temperatures separate, is I guess the easiest way to explain it. And for most of our builds with a Kuma, like I said, we usually use Kumas, that's right at the top of the door. For an electric tower stove, it's usually about 2/3 up of the tower stove. So if you have a 3-foot stove, which is a very common height for an electric stove, then you're going to want to put that exhaust vent about 2 feet. And it's usually under the bench. It could, a lot of people
Between
say,
the upper and middle bench.
yeah, a lot of people say underneath the top bench,
About
but
2/3 of the way up on an electric.
on an electric, yeah. So more specifically, you want to get it right where the thermocline is, because
Yeah.
as that air drops,
Right.
that's the first place for it to escape. So it escapes right as it's cooling and the CO2 drops, and then you're not getting stale air. So that's the most efficient place for it to be.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No,
because
go
there's
ahead.
so much already you've said. If I were to try to bullet point where you're at already, number one, electric versus wood, different ventilation
Yep.
plan.
Yep.
Okay. Number two is the escape vent at the.
Thermocline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we got two already.
Yep.
No, you only got one more, so I'm giving you some stress. But those are two big ones.
I mean, we'll just split it up and
I
see.
got the third, if you don't
Sure.
mind.
Yeah, go for it.
This thing about vertices.
Okay.
Could this be the third magic? If you could only get 3, I know there's probably 10 you could pick.
Vertices play a role in a lot of different ways inside of a sauna.
Lazy river.
Right.
Can we take
Right.
that as third?
Yeah, I mean,
Look, I have not had any libations.
Yeah.
I know it feels like a Friday afternoon, but already you got me all charged up. Go ahead. I don't mean to put words in your
the
mouth.
lazy river, I think, as you're referring to it, is that passive ventilation where if you can create it right, and it's much easier to do in a wood-fired setup than it is an electric, but it is very possible to do an electric setup if you understand how to set up an electric sauna and the ventilation that goes with that. But yeah, I mean, we're always trying to achieve that. I guess that's a goal. I wouldn't say that's the other big thing I was thinking about. The other big thing I was thinking about was splitting it over into electric, which I think a lot of people have questions about, because we get that question all the time, like, what's the difference between electric ventilation and wood-fired ventilation? And I think the biggest mistake in electric is that people are saying you need to put vents above your stove, and there are stoves that recommend that. We never recommend that being your sole source of air. That's one of the biggest drawbacks we see in electric stoves, and we have to fix it a lot. What you want to do in electric that's different than a wood, you don't want to have an air gap under your door. You do not want air coming in front of your stove.
Or through the floor.
You can have a drain, but that'll act as a check valve, because you want that at least 18 to 20 inches away from your stove. But you do want your main inlet to be down low, no matter what the stove is. The reason for that vent up above is because a long time ago, manufacturers started realizing that, hey, our limit switches are getting tripped, so let's go ahead and put a vent up top and make that the inlet, because the reason that limit switches trip is because the heat is coming up so fast with your inlet being below that it trips that cheap limit switch. And so to avoid that, they just say, oh, put a vent up above. So it's really just a catch-all to help their bottom line, so they didn't have to try and field all these calls, right?
Exactly.
But if they want you to have one up there and you do have a problem with the limit switch, install one there, put a slider on it, install one down below in the corner, put a slider on that, and then close the top vent to start, and then leave the bottom one fully open. And
So I call those A and B.
Okay.
A down low, behind the heater.
Yep.
Okay, and then B, midway between the ceiling and the top of the rock, say roughly.
Sure, we like to keep it like right around a foot
foot
above that,
the rocks.
and I'll get to the reasoning for that in a minute.
So you got A and B, and then those are inlet vents.
Right.
Okay, and then you like to close B.
I like to close B if you can.
Okay,
right?
keep going.
If you already have it in there, close it off. If your stove trips, okay, then go back out, reset the stove, open that top vent above the stove a quarter, and then close the bottom vent a quarter. And just keep feathering that open until your limit switch stops tripping.
Right.
And then you'll have the best ventilation you can get with your setup.
Exactly, with A and B working in concert.
Right. And the reason you don't want a vent above your stove, I'm going to step back into the changing room.
In general.
In general, the reason you don't want a vent above your stove is because we've tested that significantly, and all that happens is that vent becomes an outlet.
Yeah.
And all of your heat, as soon as you pour any kind of steam on there, it just shoots out. And so if you put a wind meter on that vent on the exterior, you'll see it, right? A wind meter is a very cheap tool. You can buy them on Amazon.
Or a little incense and a Grateful Dead CD.
Right, exactly, something like that. And so as soon as you pour steam on that, though, you can start losing heat out there. The highest we've seen is like 36 miles an hour.
Wow.
And so how much heat are you losing when that meter is reading 36 miles an hour versus 3?
Where B is intended as an inlet vent, but it's reversed.
It reverses because and the higher you put that vent towards the ceiling, the faster that air escapes.
Okay.
That speed goes up, and when that speed reverts out.
But if a sauna expert is making drawings with a stoic Finn looking at his feet, putting arrows, it doesn't work that way, right?
Physics don't change. Doesn't matter what country you're in.
Okay. Tell us about the electric, and keep going. You got this A/B thing. B, close it up. Keep going on the other side, the opposite corner.
Yeah, and so it's. Your exhaust, you still want to try and hit it at that thermocline because you still have heat enveloping. It's going to balloon into that opposite corner.
So can we talk about the opposite corner as a C vent by your ear, like as your steam dump, like the Slavs love?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we got that one. That's C.
Okay.
Closed all the time during operation.
99.9% of the time, a high vent in a sauna should be closed. That is, again, one of the biggest things that we see that people have. Why does my sauna get hot? Well, where's your exhaust vent? Well, it's up in the top of the ceiling. I'm like, where all your heat is and it's escaping? That's a great place to not have an exhaust vent you have open.
Were you with me at the name of the sauna builder shall not be named to protect the guilty? But
sure.
Anyway, did you see that one? Were you with me that one time where we looked at that one vent that was made?
Yeah.
It didn't close.
Yeah.
It was like the air could go by.
It was a vent, and it never actually had anything on the sides of it, so all the heat was still escaping out of it, and you couldn't even get that sauna to heat up because.
Oh, but it looked good because you could open and close.
It had a weak stove in it, and you just couldn't get the heat up, and I think you and I just left that one right away at sauna.
Well, we're gonna start naming names at some point if we wanted to.
I mean,
it's okay. So
if you know, you know.
You know. All right, C vent by your ear, closed during operation.
Yep.
D vent is the critical vent, and that's what you like about this thermocline thing. 2/3 of the way up the electric heater.
Right. Yep. And that's going to be in the same spot, typically diagonally away from your stove. And the reason I say diagonally away from the stove is because you really want your stove in a corner. I know aesthetically a lot of people want to build it
back to that.
when they walk in and the stove is there.
But one more question on the D vent. Why not down by your feet for D?
Right. Because as your air drops, it would take a lot longer for it to get down there, and it's going to cool a lot more, and so it's not actually drawing air out. Yeah. It's not doing anything down there.
And it can break this convective loop.
Right, it breaks the loop. Right, you want to try and keep that air loop consistent as possible because then you're going to get the best oxygen with the best heat, and it's always hot up top, and even down by your feet with a good stove, it's still pretty hot.
Yeah.
And so if you break that loop, though, then the pressures start creating turbulence and working against itself, and the atmospheric conditions outside play a role. And so if you start breaking that loop, then you lose the draw of the air.
Okay, so a couple of crazy questions, just to keep riffing on this.
Sure.
Everything you just described, from 1 to 10, how confident in this are you from 1 to 10?
Well, obviously a 10, yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
so we've
Okay,
tested
okay,
this
one
for
more.
different stove manufacturers, and we've done it with thermal cameras. We've done it with HVAC smoke sticks. We've done it with thermometers. We've done it with thermal probes. We use air meters all the time. Like it's relatively simple tools to see the physics at work if you just
Totally,
know
man.
what you're supposed to be looking for.
My follow-up question is about how many hours have you and Aaron studied ventilation?
Oh, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, years. I mean, when we first started trying to build and make our ventilation system as efficient as possible and really optimize that experience, I mean, we first had to learn more about it.
But you did this not to make charts and graphs and look like some pro on social media. You did this. What was the motivation?
I mean, I just really want to build the best sauna that we can build.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. And you know, this is not a Deep Wave sale ad campaign. Trust me. We're just talking shit. And look, you don't need to have a billboard say I want to build saunas for people. So I want you guys listeners to understand that we're not. You know, when I'm asking Keegan this stuff, it isn't like I'm trying to be an advertising, person for your business. But it may come across that because
I think that we both just really enjoy good sauna, and I want people to know the right way to do it that we've studied and experienced and gone back and forth on. So, yeah, it's just
this thing that you've chatted with me before about are these like 1-3-5% improvements. Can you speak to that a little bit about what your philosophy is?
So it's more of Aaron's philosophy than my philosophy. He's always said, 1% better, 1% better here, 1% better there. And he's like, if we're chasing 1%, a lot of people don't want to chase 1%. And I get that. It seems like a waste of time. But if you're 1% better 50 times, you're 50% better, And so we always chase 1% in everything that we do, from materials to ventilation to stove choice to how to build the fire to the type of wood we're using. We're always trying to chase 1%.
Yeah.
I'm going to bounce back in. You want to bounce
Love
back
it.
in?
Yeah, man. This is great. So we just finished round one. Oh my gosh. This lake, this, what do you call this? A nature lake or a environmental lake?
Yeah, it's one of the DNR's pet projects in Minnesota. They have, I think it's like 3 or 6 big waterfall protection areas that they put a lot of time and effort into, and this is one of those. And so, I mean, in any given day, I can see 150 different species of animals.
It's insane.
And just looking out my sauna window, and I love that, because I love being in nature, and I love seeing the wildlife. And
is that a birch vita?
That's actually an oak one. I've got birch in here too, but this is oak. You want to get a little on there?
Sure. The I wouldn't even want to use the word smell. The aura. I mean, if I've been in the aura in this sauna here reminds me of some of the best saunas I've been in the old country of Finland and in northern Minnesota. It's got a real roots feel. What's the size of your hot room here?
Gosh, it's been a while since I measured it, but it's probably 7 feet 3 inches, I think, or 7 foot 6 inches by 9.5 feet.
Yeah. Okay. 9 by 7.5, something like that. It's a really well-sized hot room, and I didn't forget about, you were saying you want your stove in a corner, and I think now would be a good time to talk a little bit about the dynamic and to give this, like, my saunas are really small, and there's something different about the air movement and the feel in here.
Yeah, the size plays a role.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, as far as, like, stove placement goes, we always recommend, and this is based on technical aspects. I get that there are other aspects people want to take into account, aesthetics being the biggest one that we encounter. But we're technical people. We want it to work as best as it can, because at the end of the day, if it looks all pretty and it doesn't work, then you just spend $30,000 on a semi-cold box or semi-hot box, So we always want it to work, and to reach that goal, we like to put our stoves just to the right or the left of the door in a corner, right? And then
So you walk past the stove.
You walk past the stove when you come in. And
why?
The reason for that is because the heat always travels to the farthest place away from the stove.
And that's the second law of thermodynamics without getting too pedantic.
Right.
Hot wants to go to cold.
Right.
Okay.
And so it always travels diagonally inside of a room across to the opposite corner, and then it builds like a balloon and slowly fills the space up high, and then as it hits the other wave of heat coming across, it kind of balloons down at a bit of an angle, and then it should reach that vent diagonally underneath your bench. That's the whole idea of it. And because it's next to the stove, people think that it's the hottest right next to their stove, when in reality, yeah, there's some radiant heat coming off of the stove, but the hottest corner is always diagonally opposite of the stove. So somebody who's a real thermal connoisseur and they get into a sauna and they want to sit in the hot corner, that's where they're jumping to.
And that's usually me.
Yeah. So they want the hot spot, that's where it's going to be. But I mean, this whole sauna is hot. It's going to be a couple of degrees different, and that's where the heat's going to hit you first when the steam comes down. So you're going to get that great steam.
Yeah.
If you really want
the first steam.
The first steam, that's the spot to sit. Now, if the opposite of that would be saying, okay, let's put the stove in the middle of the room or opposite the door. And that gets done a lot. And I understand the aesthetics of it. I understand the layout of it. Sometimes you're doing it to try and get as many people there as possible, not have them walk past the stove. Or maybe you want them to see that stove and that stove surround when you walk in. Totally understand that. The problem is when that stove kicks off heat, where's the farthest corner? Now, the door. Right. If you're opposite the door with your stove, all you're going to do is be ruining your sauna's ability to retain that heat and optimize your experience.
Now, arguably, the deficiency of this is not as great if it's just like you and I right now. I mean, this door will open and close. 4 rounds. Not as. But if you're running a sauna in the public domain, and some yahoo opens the door and says, "Hey, Jimmy, you're here. Hey, did anyone see my water bottle?"
Which is
you're
oddly
fucked.
enough the most common place we see stoves getting put opposite doors is in commercial settings. I'm like, guys, you're killing your ability to offer an awesome experience to your sauna goers, and it's just
And it's not something. This is to Aaron. Not shout out to Aaron. This is not a 1%. I mean, this issue is what 15, 20. This is like big.
It's a big deal. I mean, I've had people that said, "I'm done with this." They're like, "Tear it out, put it where you think it should go," and completely change their sauna experience. It's a big variable. There's a few really big variables, and that's one of them.
I love it.
Putting your stove in the right spot in your hot room is a big deal, and not all hot rooms are squares or rectangles. We recommend building in a rectangle if you can help it, and putting your stove on the short end of that rectangle with the door.
Yes.
But it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you have certain constraints in the space that you're using, and you can't do that.
Love it.
But if you can, that's how you should be designing that sauna for the best experience.
Yeah. And this has got a lot of air. This is, a lot of cubic, whatever. And when I knew I was coming here today, first of all, when we set this up, I would love to have you in my backyard sauna, but this is a treat for me. And look, I've been in hundreds of saunas, hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know. I don't try to keep score, but when I knew I was coming to see you today, I knew I was going to get this. This is a 10 in terms of heat, steam, and ventilation.
Yeah, it just works every time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the atmospheric conditions are outside. Atmospheric conditions do play a big role in your sauna building, your placement of your sauna. But once you get that dialed in, it doesn't matter what it is; it'll still work.
Yeah.
I
love it.
And so every time you come in here, it's just we know what we're getting, and it's great heat.
And then we're getting nature too. I mean, there's this is nature, and there's a gas light, or what is that light?
It's a white gas lantern that we have sit outside on one of the post frames for our overhang out in front of our sauna.
And a very simple candle in the candle window, and that's it. So I actually took some notes, and I don't know if listeners are interested in this, but I rarely take notes for questions I want to ask, but I listed 13 questions to ask Keegan.
Okay.
and I can't read them.
Okay.
I printed it.
Good.
And by the way, I left my house and I pulled out of my garage and I said, oh fuck, I forgot the list.
Yeah.
So I ran back inside. Car was running. Ran back in my house, grabbed my list. It's useless because and this is a beautiful thing because this is organic, right? The light isn't bright enough for me to refer to.
I mean, you really could if you wanted to, but you'd be squinting, and we try to keep it low light, just to, like the calm feeling, and out of respect for everybody that's in here, and try to keep the lighting.
But I'm reaching for my list in my head right now, and I think I've covered some really good anecdotes. Are there things that we were thinking about for this podcast? Like, what else do we want to chat about? There was a few other cool things that was on our minds.
I don't know. I think I kind of covered everything that you and I originally talked about, I guess, but
the mechanics, it's just like magic. The ventilation whisper. What I love about the way you look, I cornered you because I wanted to know for how long and how many hours you and Aaron and you have been studying ventilation and stuff. And I just want to set the record that I don't know if anyone ever that I know of has spent more time dedicated to studying how air wants to move in a sauna. And I choose those words carefully because I really do believe in the spirit of sauna and that we are giving birth to something. This is an organic place. This is something that lives. A sauna lives. And to respect that, I think you do a great job of that, Keegan. You respect
we do appreciate that. I mean, we don't want to just come off that way and be boastful, but we do really enjoy creating great spaces, and it's really, it started with my love of it, like me wanting to be in a space that feels as good as it possibly can, and being able to share that with other people is, I think, one of the best things I can do with my life.
And on that note, let's talk a little bit about sauna days and the tribe, the folks that you've gotten to know there. And one of the ways I want to ask you about it, you can take it in any way you want, but tell us a story, a sauna day story. Like how many sauna days have you, this is an event we're talking about here. I'll let you think about it, and you're gonna tell me a story here. But for those that may not know, I'm partial to it. I founded the event. I was sitting on the sauna bench at Larsmont Cottages because I was building a sauna in 2013, and I remember that year now for other reasons. But it was that time, and I remember sitting on that sauna bench, and it was like, holy hell! I mean, this is just a gem of a place. And I probably went there 4 or 5 times during that sauna build, just down the shore on Lake Superior there, and never was I ever on the bench with anybody else. Granted, this was like 12 years ago when sauna wasn't as big of a deal, I suppose. Right. But hey, there I sat quietly and looking out over Lake Superior between rounds, and I thought, man, what a cool place for people like us to gather. Yeah. And I sheepishly approached the facility at Larsmont Cottages, and to my surprise, they were open-armed and open-eyed to the idea. And the first sauna days, I think, 2015, 2016, there's about 25 people. And
oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, and I thought it was a massive success because everybody left with a smile on their face, and it was just so cool. We had 2 or 3 mobile saunas join us and stuff like that. So anyway, Sauna Days was born, and how many have you been to? And for listeners, when you speak about the joy of bringing people together as one of your, pillars of enjoyment for this, tell us a story about it.
Well, I've got 2. One that relates to that, and one I just like to share because I think it's funny. We've been coming to Sauna Days now since I think the 2nd or 3rd one, so it's been 4 or 5 years maybe. And year 2 or 3, this couple that we had seen every year, and they always get a Venek done from some of the Russian body masters that frequent those sauna days, and her sister was outside, and she said that the year before, her sister came out of that sauna, and she asked her sister how she felt, and she said, my Lord, I feel like I just met Jesus. And so the next year on the bench, when you're doing a Venic, if you're not familiar with it, a lot of times you're laying down, usually your eyes are closed and you're just trying to relax as they guide you through this experience. And I snuck in there and set that little Jesus doll right next to her head. And so when she turned over, she just started roaring with laughter, and everybody outside, all of her friends and her sister were just roaring with her. And so that one always sticks with me. But
Beautiful.
as far as bringing people together, and I think sauna can be more than that. I think it can be a place to reconnect with yourself, not only reconnecting with people, but it is a great place to spend time. Like when I spend time with my friends, the first thing I'm like, hey, what do you guys want to do? They're like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I want a sauna. Let's sauna together. Let's hang out and really let loose a little bit. And so the first year that we were all up there with the B Sauna crew and the California Banya crew, and then the Banya House Banya crew out of here in Prior Lake, Minnesota, who we've all since become very close friends with. That was kind of the first year that friendship was born. And man, there was a smaller barrel sauna on wheels there, and we were just all piled in there because there wasn't a whole lot of other people, and we just piled in there.
This was late at night.
This was late at night. It was like past 9, 10 o'clock, and
I mean, they had locked the lodge.
They had locked the lodge, yep. And so we're like, hey, we're not done yet. Let's have some fun, because you're working all day, and like, let's jump into the sauna quick. Well, it turned out it started with like 3 or 4 of us, and there turned out like 25 other people that really wanted to be part of a sauna that night, and they missed the last round or something. So we had, 20, 25 people packed in this little 8 to 9 person sauna. And out of nowhere, some of the Slavs just started singing this traditional Slavic song about the sorrow of a man coming home from war. And it's I don't remember the name of it, have to excuse me, but it's a beautiful, hauntingly beautiful song. And that opened every single person up in there. Even if they didn't know the lyrics, they were humming along to it. And everybody came together. These people I don't know. There's 3 different languages inside of this sauna, and half of them don't know what the other people are saying, but they're connecting, and that connection has obviously lasted, for years for us, and will continue to last for years. But it was just a great experience that I made lifelong friends in a minute, and then we continued to sing songs till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, Yeah. But,
and were you joined by one of the musicians at Sauna Days?
Yes, Ted. Ted always comes up and plays guitar, and he wanted to jump in a sauna late night one time. We said, yeah, we got room for one more. Come on in. And he jumped in, and we it went back and forth. The Russians would sing a song, or the Slavics would sing a song, and then that they all knew, and then we'd sing a song that we all knew. And it was just a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's a testament to the connectivity, right? Like strangers and new friends made, all through the heat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to shower real quick.
You should. So how long have you been building saunas, Keegan?
Well, we started Deep Wave, like I said, like 4 or 5 years ago, and that's where we really started diving into the physics and the engineering behind it. But my dad and I, we've been building saunas for probably 18 to 20 years. Not full time, but we had a lot of projects that came up like that, and that's where I started to understand the nuances of it, what worked better, what didn't work,
So on that note, do you believe in the statement that every sauna has its own soul? And with that, do you think that every sauna wants to breathe differently, or are there absolutes when it comes to breathing and ventilation?
I don't think there's any absolutes because atmospheric conditions play a big role. Your conditions of your space and the confines that go with that play a big role. But there are very, very solid generalities that if you follow them, you're going to get really close, to having the best experience you can have in that particular space.
Yeah, I like that.
Does that answer that?
I think so, but it's a spiritual place.
Yeah, I think that a good sauna, there's a feel to it, and you can kind of walk into every single one you go into. And when I walk into this sauna, I get a different feeling than when I walk into, say, a friend's sauna up on Lake Vermilion, But getting to experience what
is their special place. That really, there's something special about that. I keep saying the word special, but there is.
Yeah.
But there's soulless saunas too, I think. Your local gym sauna with an old heater and everything's like you can't get it up above 120 and they don't want any water on it. That's a soulless sauna.
I know.
I would say there are saunas that don't have souls. I guess, but.
Well, I feel sorry for those saunas. They want to aspire to be a sauna like this, but they got dealt a bad hand.
Right.
Poor guys, you know. So here's one I wanted to throw at you is you're pretty active on social media and you give from your heart and stuff. What do you think about what about like someone who's a pedantic chatter and putting graphs and charts and trying to be Mr. Know-it-all and stuff how do you? You're kind of like you got some Irish in you, right?
There's a lot of Irish.
Okay, how do you keep cool? How do you keep cool when you know?
I try not to get caught up in the argumentative stuff. Most of that stuff, like I would urge people to search out people that build and test and do these things themselves, not somebody who's a journalist that only just has never picked up the tools and they just want to draw graphs and tell you how all these different saunas they've experienced work when they don't really understand it. They've never put a smoke stick out or never used a wind meter or a thermal camera to really understand it. Or maybe they say they have and they still don't understand it. There's a few out there like that because they don't understand the physical properties that are not the physical properties, but the properties of physics that are occurring while the sauna is operating. And so it's really difficult to dive through all that stuff, and I try not to get caught up into it. I go on to those forums and stuff I'm gonna close this and get a little chilly. But I go into those forums to try and help people. So if I see somebody and I've got the time and somebody's got a genuine question where they're concerned about it or they don't maybe know which direction they're going to or they're getting led in the wrong direction, a lot of times I won't even post it on there. I'll just send them a message and be like, hey, take this with a grain of salt, like here's why, here's the reasoning behind it, and if somebody can explain to you why they're putting things in a certain place and how it affects the flow of the air, for example, in a ventilation location, without just saying, hey, it works this way. And it's like, no, that's not how heat works.
But what if they lead with as a Finn, comma?
Well, I think that you have to give the respect to the culture that's there. But you could ask 100 Finns, and I have, what the best way to build a sauna is, and you're going to get 100 different answers. And that's why just saying that, I grew up in a place that loves sauna, that doesn't mean that everybody there is an absolute expert on the best way to build something,
I never thought I'd be the guy to wave the American flag or North American flag as opposed to a European flag. But, we've been we, meaning Americans, Minnesotans, we've been building saunas for, 100 and whatever years. When the late 1800s, the Great Migration, we're not yahoos in this state.
Yeah, I mean, I think that most Americans get a bad rap on how they build because they lump all these commercial gym saunas that aren't really saunas. Like, I don't want to go sit in those things either,
Or these cheap-ass kit saunas.
Right, yeah, cheap kit, which, if that's what you can get into, some sauna is better than no sauna. I always say that,
I love that. A good one.
But yeah, really get into a great sauna. Like, Americans are kind of known for pushing the boundaries of things. Like, we aren't really rule followers in a sense that a lot of cultures are rule followers. Hey, this is the structure, stay within it and do exactly as you're told. Don't ask any questions.
Let's talk about the law of Lolu. Speaking of rules and laws, what's your opinion of that?
And the law of Lolu being that your feet need to be above the rocks. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bogus, right? Because you can go into this sauna right here and you can feel your feet are below the rocks in my personal sauna. I'll flat out tell you that. But with that stove, there is no more than an 8 to 10 degree difference from the top of the top bench to the bottom of the bottom bench. And like that to me is a great stratification number. Like that is That's exactly what I want it to be, you know, because if you do want to drop down a little bit but still want to stay in the heat, you can drop down, lose 10 degrees.
It's okay to be a low bench, Larry.
Right. It's okay for some people to do that. Sauna how you want to, you know, that's what I always say. But, but yeah, you don't, if your space constraints aren't there, you don't need it. Like, I would love to build a big, huge sauna, and someday I'll build one back here on the property. I have we share a close friend that has a big, beautiful sauna at his cabin out in New York.
Oh, Alex.
Yeah.
Name.
It's a banya, I guess.
Yeah,
he might get mad at me for calling it a sauna.
Yes.
But it's a banya. But I think people get caught up in the lingo too much. It's a place to just to go and sweat and relax and unwind, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's go ahead on the bench there.
Yeah, so he's got this just huge room, and I mean, if you're up, he's got I think 9-foot ceilings in that banya, and it can be great. You know, it can have really great heat if you've got the stove to power it. It can be awesome.
And the time to heat it all.
Right, and the time to heat it all. But sometimes you don't have those constraints, and you might not be able to build. Maybe you've only got a 7-foot ceiling in your basement. And you want to put a sauna in it because that's the only place you can do it.
But with this stove in here, an 8-foot ceiling is no better than a 7-foot ceiling.
Yeah, I mean that really just depends on the space you have and how you want to use it, and how many people you want to get in there. I really like 8 feet. This one is I think 7.6 or 7.4.
Yeah.
But you know, if you can just get up into the heat and build it within the constraints you have.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask you anyway. So if you were to start all over, and if this thing burnt down, and it never would, but you know, if lightning struck this and you had to rebuild it, would you change the ceiling height in this hot room, and why or why not?
No.
Yeah, I knew you were going to answer that.
I mean, I would love to build a really big, huge banya. But it'd be a different experience, you know. Alex has got these monstrous benches. They're just they're like 4 feet wide, and he's got like 8 of them in there, and they're kind of like sticker stacked, like opposite heights as you go up, and you kind of climb up at like a big playground.
Yes.
And it's just different to be able to have a space where you can completely just sprawl out. Mm-hmm. It's just a different experience, you know.
And it's a hunting place. So he's got like
he takes a lot of people up there. I mean, no, he'll have
the church
100 people up there with his church group, you know, maybe more than that, 200 people, and they'll camp out and they'll all hang out and they'll bond you in and out all weekend, and you know, there's just something neat about that particular experience in big saunas or big banyas. And but for me, like this is nobody can see it here, but I mean, we cut the trees that are lining the changing room and the floor in the changing room. We cut all that from my grandpa's property when my dad and I when I was much younger, and we sat next to our sawmill for years until I figured out something to do with it. It's all
so cool.
It's all hickory.
And you got some live edge.
It's all live edge hickory, and the floors are all milled to make it look like it's got wormholes and stuff in it. And we basically antiqued the whole thing, and in the back wall is just a bunch of split blocks. You can find pictures of this sauna on online places, but
I'll try to link to the show notes. Do you have photos on your website of this?
Yeah, we have. I don't know if they're on the website, but they're definitely on our Instagram and our Facebook. But for me, there's a piece of me in every corner I look here. So if I were to ever build it again, I do it the exact same way, so I can at least remember the way I built the first one.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? So for me, there's a connection there, you know? And I think that's the great thing about building your own sauna, all those DIYers out there that are really kind of popping up everywhere. I think it's an awesome thing to see.
Oh, hey, dude, I brought you a copy of my book.
Oh, yeah?
I want to gift it to you. and this is a plug.
Sure.
No,
I appreciate that.
I want to I appreciate you because I shared a digital copy of my book with you, and thank you. You were very meticulous to go through the page.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Don't be sorry, dude. I want to thank you. And what do you think of my book? You know, DIY.
I think there's a lot of literature out there. And Glenn, you do a great job at taking the analysis paralysis out of people. You know, you kind of bring it back down to earth. It's an everyman's book, you know. Read it. There's some things that you're like, yeah, you can do this or you can do this, you know, but you know, this worked for me, you know. And I think there's something special about being able to relate to people in that way, to saying, yeah, I've built a lot of saunas and I've sat in a lot of saunas, and this is how we like to do it. This is how we think it works, and these are my recommendations. And it's super simple for people to read through. So yeah, it's a good book.
Man, so thanks, man. You know, and I learned a lot about ventilation through you, and I mean the ventilation whisper, because, you know, I talk about in chemo ratio. You know, he talks about this heat steam. What is sauna? Heat steam ventilation, and I really kind of marinated with that for years. Actually, his description of the fundamentals of sauna, and I call it the Holy Trinity. And this is heat steam ventilation. If you just kind of think about those things. You know, heat is kind of, you know, you got heat going, and then steam, hey, we all know that. That's okay, but ventilation, that's the silent one. That's the quiet one. That's the mysterious of the trio of the jazz.
I think it's definitely overlooked. And another thing that I feel like a broken record on this one, but if you can help it, don't put cedar slatted floors in your sauna. Mm-hmm. You know, because it just negatively impacts the ability for your sauna to create good ventilation, because you have all that air coming in from the atmospheric conditions outside. It's blowing it in all kinds of weird angles, and you can never get it to consistently go in the same direction.
Well,
floor with a drain, close it off, put your vents in the right spot, and be done with it.
Well, here we are back to ventilation.
Simple recipe for a great sauna.
But you know, there's certain moments in conversation with people that are smarter than me in this space, which are several, you know, in their own areas, which I love. You know, and when you and I get nerdy about ventilation talk, and we have over time, and I'm trying to get it, I'm trying to relate, and then, man, I tell you, this lazy river thing hit me like a fucking nail over the head. It is just so right to think about. When we establish that, it's slow. Here's how I describe it: is like when you're walking on the Mississippi River and really wide, and you're walking your dog or whatever, and you throw a stick in the water, and you think you're throwing a stick into a lake, and then you see that stick move. Like, to me, that is the visual metaphor of good ventilation.
Yeah, I think it's a great metaphor for it, because you don't want it to stop. You know, you want that airflow to be as consistent for as long as possible while you're taking a session. And
uninterrupted. And natural.
Right, and the reason for that is when it's flowing correctly, it feels better. More oxygen in the room, you can breathe easier. Yeah. I don't know how many people have come into our saunas and said, hey, you know, I can breathe in your sauna. And I'm like, but it's 200 degrees, you know?
And you didn't breathe through mechanical fans and vents and stuff.
No, I'm not. If we can avoid using mechanical ventilation, we do. If it's necessary, we use it. And the reason that we try to avoid it is because when you use mechanical ventilation, you have a forced airflow, and it doesn't naturally get to the whole room. It comes in and it goes out in one direct path. It doesn't actually fill the whole room, and that's the big drawback for mechanical ventilation, so we try to avoid it. Throw in the fact that I hate hearing a little whirring, buzzing sound when I'm sitting in a place I'm trying to relax. And, if I want to have a CCR CD on or something like that, it's a different story. I don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, right. Plus, there's this analog, you know, like I'm working on an article on Sauna Times about analog, right? And this is an analog sauna. I mean, this is like a beautiful example of, and you know, nature like is a key component to what we do here. Yeah. And you know, we break that, you know, with you know, machines and mechanics.
I mean, I get it. You know, sauna how you wanna, and any sauna is better than no sauna. These are just the things that we've found from going through this process for years and trying to figure out the best
to put you on
practices.
but to put you on the spot then is natural ventilation. I'm trying to ask the question in the right way. You don't need mechanical for electric.
You do not need mechanical ventilation for an electric sauna. If somebody tells you that, they don't understand physics, which I get it. A lot of people don't understand physics when it comes to sauna. It's not really, contractors don't really jump into the world of physics, you know. So it's understandable that it's overlooked and misunderstood, but you do not need it if your conditions are accounted for and you can build it in a way where you can keep that consistent flow. Obviously, a good stove helps. And they're, not all electric stoves are created equal. But we don't need to get into the weeds with that. But there are some stoves that put out better heat consistently, and that helps, right? And I think in the future you're going to see more stoves getting built, like
electric heater stoves
are getting built in a manner that creates that more even heat and not that scorchy heat that most people are used to inside of an electric stove. So I think it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, man. I know it's an exciting time for sauna. I'm gonna. So a couple other rapid fire questions I'd like to ask all the guests of Sauna Talk, and thanks for being a part, Keegan, today. I really enjoyed our time. Fucking great. I love coming out here. But I want to get back to stoves, okay? And again, we don't work for Lampa Manufacturing. People think I work for the company.
No.
I'm an ambassador. You don't work for the company. No. But when you do builds, what do you choose Kuma and why?
It boils down to one really big thing. Throw aside the fact that I love the heat. Throw aside the fact that I love the way that it works, that they put all their time, their mindfulness, and their engineering, and it's the best gasification stove. Even their legacy stove is a great stove. Like,
it's what we're experiencing.
It's my favorite stove. It's what's in here.
Mine too. Yeah.
And throw all that out. The fact is,
it's the people.
No, I drew a blank.
In the product.
You got to back up.
Well, I don't do that.
You don't do that.
Well, you were setting
this is the problem.
I know. I think I know your punchline.
No, I
give it to you.
I don't get callbacks. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
I know.
You got me a little nervous with this whole podcast thing.
Well, no, dude. It's okay. You set it all up, but that's your punchline. Is you never get callbacks.
Right. And that's really what it boils down to. We're running a business, and we have done a lot of other stove installs, and those are the only ones we ever get called back about. And as somebody who is trying to move forward and not move back with problems, and like any business owner wants to do, being able to have that consistency, and it's safe, it's easy to run, it burns anything. Like, we're burning wet cottonwood in here right now. Don't let Garrett told you I told you. Or don't tell Garrett I told you that. But,
that's good. How many different stoves have you not just felt, but or felt or experienced and worked with,
different stoves or different brands?
Either one. Either one.
Stoves, I couldn't even tell you. I probably sat in a sauna with every model of every big brand stove you can think of. And then probably, I don't know, 25 to 50 saunas that had homemade stoves in them, and they were trying to either replicate to build or just make their own stove cheaply,
So, and you grew up burning wood?
Yep. We burn wood in everything. Our saunas, our house, the shop, absolutely everything burns wood. Still burns wood,
Great. Okay. So we kind of danced around that quite a bit. But it's nice to share love and passion. And, back to this Walker trunk, and, we were kind of alluding to this guy. And the thing, I hope he listens to this, because, this slandering of Akuma is not just kind of wrong.
Yeah,
it's like, it's so off base. Like,
it's just, it's just not true.
That's right.
Saying that it's not a sauna stove, it's, in my opinion, the best sauna stove that I can get here. Are there better ones out there? Maybe they're not sold to the masses. When you can get 190 degrees, and what was the temp when you got here?
Oh my God, it was perfect, because my ass was hot on the
40,
bench.
35, 40?
Oh, outside.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 35, 40.
So in an hour and some change, hour and 10 minutes. I got it to 190. I was working it, but yeah, you can do it.
Right.
And
Well, for me, what I'll do is it's a snowy day. I'm in Minneapolis. It's a sauna day. I walk out to my backyard sauna in the garage, and I fire up the Kuma, and I come inside. Say it's 4 o'clock.
Right.
So in the snow, there's one trail out and one trail back. Well, the next time I go out, I'm like, got a towel wrapped around me and a water bottle, and off I go. I walk out, it's 160, 170 to the dot, an hour later. Mm-hmm. No walking back and forth, adding wood and all that. And then I just throw a U-log in, kind of temper it a little bit, and I throw steam, and we can get nerd out on this, but the temperature does move. The thermometer would, it would, and then it gets going. Like round one, I ride it up a little bit, and then it's 180 by the end of round one. 15, 20 minutes later,
right?
180 for 2 hours with one fucking log.
Yeah,
that's what, and it, like you can feel you want 185. You just move the damper a little bit. It's so. That's one of the things I love. Yeah. Some people like fucking around. I don't. I mean, I love this. Load it, light it, come back an hour later, one log sauna.
You know what I love about the Kuma? You just saying that made me think about it. But have you ever banked your fire and left it overnight so you can sauna in the morning?
Yeah, I do that at the cabin. Yeah, because it's where I sleep. The sauna guest cabin.
Right.
I got a wonderful story about banking the fire. But go ahead.
I mean, a lot of people don't know that you can do this, but if you don't scrape your coals into the ash pan the last burn or so, the last time you put logs on, and before you go to bed, you push all the coals to the back and you throw a log or two on it, and all that ash will just soak into the coals and basically not allow oxygen to the coals. Banking fires is one of the oldest ways to retain heat known to man, and you can do it in the back of the Kuma and it doesn't go out. It'll be there till...
all night burn.
Man, I'll come out, I'll go to bed, I'll get out of the sauna, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and still there at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. the next morning when I go to light it again. And it's like, as a business owner, that's a great thing to be able to know, you know?
But you're right, except you don't light it again. All you do is
you just pull the coals forward.
And toss like two. Daryl told
Same thing, pull another log on it, you're good to go.
Daryl told me just the other time, last 2 weeks when I was up there, he says, you want to load wood in threes, because the way the gases interplay with each other. So when you come back in the morning and pull those coals forward, toss 3 logs on.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then they dance. The gases dance among the flame, and when there's 3.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That Daryl, man, he's amazing what he knows just by observation.
What?
Like,
and
not
how many
classically
hours?
Taught.
How many hours of observation? He's so patient.
Yeah, it's incredible, really.
Empirical.
Right. Very.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Very little theory.
Right. It's all empirical evidence.
His empirical to theoretical ratio is.
That's why arrows don't mean a whole lot on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well said, brother. Well said. Okay, so 3 quick questions.
Sure.
And we'll wrap her up, man. Thanks for listening to this episode. I don't always think about the listener, but hey, if you're sounding, if you're driving, I love the spirit of Sauna Talk, where we can be on the bench in spirit,
Yeah, I mean, we're just chatting like we normally do in a sauna.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you think, okay, this is a good one. So these are the couple rapid fires. Mobile sauna, the Deep Stream. I mean, you and mobile are very intimate. This is a great mobile solution that you've productized, and there's a couple videos out there if you want to learn about the Deep Stream from Deep Wave. Your dedication to mobile by making it better, and these, Aaron, the 1%, you hit a couple of 10, 15%, an improvement of the mobile product.
Yeah.
And I'm setting up for three questions, dude.
Okay.
And the one,
are you gonna corner me?
Yeah,
proprietary information.
Because now we're going to talk about how great the Deep Stream is.
Okay.
But I don't know if the listener wants to go there because I'm setting up a closing.
Sure.
So
that's fine. Whatever you want to do, I'll follow along.
I know. So just check it out about the Deep Stream. and why it's different and better. And I love it. I have one. I own a Deep Stream mobile, and there'll be many more of those. So anyway, it's a mobile sauna question. If you could bring one anywhere in the world, what's the first place that comes to mind?
Man. Alaska.
Whereabouts?
You know, I know at least 100 different places where it would be incredible.
So you'd have a quarter ton, maybe? What would you be towing it with?
Yeah. You could tow that thing with a 6-cylinder,
How about
a 4-cylinder little, SUV that.
Well, that's
you
mine.
That's
Yeah,
right.
my
That's how we
Equinox.
know you can tow them
Yes.
with it. That was a 16-footer too. And
Yeah, man. So, okay, you're in
So you
Alaska.
just get a big enough vehicle
What's your
to do it.
vehicle? What
If
were
I'm
your
going to
ideal?
Alaska, I'm gonna bring a truck. Hopefully, get a tonneau cover or something like that.
Nice.
And then,
nice. And would it be a
or a big SUV? That's fine too. So you can just hold people in gear, and then you can pull your sauna behind you and heat it up when you're driving, and then stop at the ocean, and you're just there, man.
Yeah,
it's an amazing place.
Okay, and would it be a 13-footer?
Oh yeah.
The Lucky 13?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go bigger. It's nice to have it compact when you're driving, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to lay down, and so that 13-foot gives you that extra foot of room in that hot room.
Yeah.
And so that's why we really like that, and that's why, Aaron suggested we do it that way, and I love the idea. So.
And so there you are. You pull up to a shore, to a beach in Alaska, and you pull up to a trout stream.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, there's a place that I proposed to my fiance in Alaska that would be great, and I keep thinking about bringing a tent sauna up there. And basically, it's this tall hill that's probably 15, 20 yards high, and you stand up on it, and you're surrounded by a whole bowl of mountains, and there's creeks coming down from all the different mountains and running off, and that would be a great place for a sauna. There's creeks big enough to jump into.
Yeah. But could you bring the mobile close?
Oh, yeah. You could drive it right to the creek.
Oh, dude.
It's just outside of Hope, Alaska. If you ever go to Alaska, check out Hope, Alaska. There's my
So one of the things,
really great little town.
One of the niches that's really got me excited along the edges of sauna and where we at today is the Sauna Times map. We have 350 pins of saunapreneurs, sauna business, all that. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do with this? It started with 5, went to 20, 50, 100, so we have a great database there. And
just go do a circuit.
That's it.
Did you know drive around them?
Did you know about sauna circuits?
Sauna circuits? That's
what it is. That's the initiative.
Oh no, I'm just saying we should just go do a circuit. Let's just drive and hit them all. Let's just start road tripping.
Well, okay, so sauna circuit is like how to bring the map, how to make the map engaging. Like we're going to have 20 to 30 sauna circuits already in play. San Francisco.
That's what you're calling it.
Yeah, that's what we're calling it.
Oh.
It's already got a logo and a brand, dude. So we're aligned and out here.
Right.
But so San Francisco, there's 4 to 6 saunas you can visit, like a wine tour.
Sure.
In every city, that'll be marked in red.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. But the real cool thing are these what we call adjacencies, and that's like people like us do things like this. So when you want to go to San Francisco, here's a cool hike you can do right by sauna number 3.
Right.
This is a great brewery between 2 and 4. They're between 5 and saunas 5 and 6. Maybe you want to stop at this brewery. They're a really great spot. It's in nature, and there's a waterfall in the back. Whatever.
Heck yeah.
Or this is a great really good food restaurant. Healthy food.
Right.
Blah blah blah. So imagine these adjacencies, and that's all going to happen. And what's cool about your idea about bringing a mobile sauna up to Alaska is a sauna circuit that you will curate on your own, and you can just keep it private, or you can share it.
Sure.
And this is the sauna travel. This is the spirit that you really excited me about with the answer to your question. Then that's why I love the question about if you could bring a mobile sauna anywhere in the world. It opens the mind to crazy and extreme. But then when we pull it back to what's in front of us, is we can make that real.
Right. I like it.
So there you go. It was
Yeah.
Great answer, dude. And I love the idea of a sauna
when I
circuit.
travel, I always look for a sauna. That's how I found Hope, Alaska.
Yeah, right.
There's this tiny little place. It's got a first class restaurant.
I think they're not open on like Mondays or Tuesdays. So if you go, keep that in mind. But
There'll be an adjacency.
right, but they've got a bunch of little cottages around this creek, and then one little cottage is a sauna. I'm like, the place I stay at has got to have a sauna. That's
Right on.
that's where we're staying.
I love it. And you pull up with your SUV, hauling a deep stream
Sure.
Lucky 13.
We'll get one to Alaska. Yeah,
Love it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now you got me really excited. We'll talk more about that. But 2 more questions.
Yeah.
You wake up, like today. It's you know from the moment you woke up today, it was going to be a sauna day.
Right.
From that moment to all the way in a few hours when you tuck yourself in bed and kiss your little, you know, how old is your son now?
10 months.
10 months. Okay, so it's bedtime and all that.
Yep.
And then everything in between. We talked about lighting the fire and all that, and our first cold plunge, or, you know, I'm setting it up. But what is your favorite moment as you think about the full day when sauna's involved?
That 5 minutes to yourself when you just got out of your last round and you knew that was the one that was gonna, that was the end. You knew that was it. You know, that feeling you get when you get out and you're just like, all the tension's gone. You know, and then you can go back into the rest of your life and enjoy all the things that you have, you know. And if without sauna, it's tough for me to always unwind like that, you know. So it's, for me, it's a really big part of our life. And
so that moment at the end of your rounds, yeah, that's great. That's good. I love that answer, and I see that as an end. But you know, and that's a little sad sometimes.
Right.
So sometimes the opposite of that answer would be like, oh, that first low, you know, first steam on the, you know, or first round, because there's that ride up. But yours, you're looking at it on the...
I'm looking at, for me, my love of sauna comes from just a different place. It came from how it made me feel. And the best feeling of it is, you know, when you've got enough of it to, you know, take the edge off.
Well,
And,
yeah. Okay,
it's just how we approach
last one, and thanks again,
Sure.
dude.
Yeah,
so back to a sauna, you know, like this idea that, you know, you can have a mobile sauna and bring it anywhere, right?
Sure.
And you're staying up in Alaska, and we got this great idea for that. Who was the first person that comes to mind that you would like to be on the bench with? Dead or alive, past, present. Who would that be?
Like famous person or just
Anybody. Like, who's the first person that comes to mind? You're gonna this dream.
Leslie is the first person that comes to mind. But I mean, if we're talking about famous people, yeah, maybe Abraham Lincoln or Michael Jordan.
Cool.
You know,
Great.
be kind of cool.
Yeah, I love those answers.
You know, that's because I would want to unwind and relax. There's a lot of people I might want to talk to more, but I feel like those, I don't know. Mike would be cool, and
yeah,
wise old Abe. I don't know. There's just 2 that jumped in my head.
I love it. I love it. And then, so take us out, Keegan. On last one is, what would be a nice subject, you know, that would be worthy on the sauna bench, either sauna related, not, you know, what would be a nice thing to chat with Abe Lincoln about?
I would probably not ask him really anything about his experiences as president, but just, I feel like he's, I don't know,
human talk.
The human talk, you know, like asking advice on life, and I'm more interested in that than the politics of it, you know, so.